My name is Daniel Egusquiza, and I have several hats in the community. The most notorious ones are community engagement supervisor for the Reading Public Library and executive director for Barrio Alegria.
And how long have you been in Reading?
I have lived in Reading for around 25 years. I was born in Lima, Peru, and I came here to the States when I was 19 years old.
Awesome. And since you've been in the States, have you been in Reading since then?
My family moved to Berks County, but we lived in Birdsboro. It wasn't Reading, and then from Birdsboro, I went to school in Chicago, um, um, of uh, of Chicago, at a university called Northern Illinois University, and I received my bachelor's degree there. And so I am an artist, and I graduated with a degree that says that I can do watercolor. And once we graduated, our professor, my mentor, said, "Now it's your artist practice is what you have to do." And so I've been practicing art ever since.
Awesome. So tell me about Barrio Alegria. What it's about and how did it come to life?
Barrio Alegría is a community engagement organization that uses art to create transformational moments in people. It started as a group of friends who got together or would get together to create choreographies, dance choreographies. And after choreographing for about 6 months, we would go and perform in community events. And then after performing, people would those that were involved in the dance would say, so now what? The choreography is done, the performance is done. Like, what do we do now? And I realized that through the choreographies, through the art, we were building community, and that came to be useful because around 2011, the city of Reading was declared the poorest city in the U.S. And we realized that we were dancing where our people, our friends, were dying, where people were hungry, where our people did not have a place to go home to. And we thought that we should do something. And it wasn't until 2015 when we realized how. So, community engagement was something that we realized that we could do, and we have been doing it since.
How would you say since you started Reading, Barrio Alegria began, like you said in 2009, it was declared the poorest city. How would you say you've seen Reading change, say since then or in this last decade?
So the the New York Times article came in 2011. Um, I think that there have been many changes, several for the better and several for the worse. Um, Reading is a city that still has challenges, but I think that there are more people now that are willing to um, try to make it better, that are finding resources to do it. Before, people had the willingness and the desire to make it better, but they were unable to find the resources to make the change that they wanted to create. And I think that that's a little bit where Barrio has contributed, because we are able to navigate the way to resources, because sometimes resources are hidden behind labyrinths. And because we know the way through the labyrinths, we are able to bring our people to those resources.
Bring the resources directly to the people.
Or, yes, or that.
Yeah. So you said a lot about Reading, and you mentioned how still has its challenges, which it does. Um, What would you say to those who may negatively perceive Reading, maybe just from what they've heard?
Um, I wouldn't say anything to them. I think that it's difficult to, if not impossible, to change the way somebody perceives something. So your perception and your experience with something, that's you, that's yours. What we can do is work to make sure that spaces are available, that resources are available, and then you can choose to think that writing is a better place, that it's a welcoming place, that it's a place to call home, which is the experience of many people. I think that the majority of people in writing are starting to change that mentality and are starting to perceive the city as a more welcoming city for them because um, um, people like um, those that are involved with Barrio are declaring that this is their home and they are here to stay. So when you start seeing that more and more, then you start changing your perception because there are many disconnectors that we have, and to be able to spend our time connecting people to each other, it's a very difficult type of work. I think that and it would be even more difficult to measure. For us, the measurements that we use are storytelling um, and of course, quantitative. We see a number of events, number of people that become involved in the programs that we do, but we are mostly interested in how people are changing um, their perception toward the city inside. We are not necessarily focused on those that think that Reading is not a space for them to thrive or to feel safe, because people are here already, and they, by being here, are in many ways choosing the city as their place. So together we can try to work to make it a better place.
You would say by making conscious choices
Yeah.
with like intent, basically.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Would you, and this is just like a separate, in your opinion, would you say that we're that same city that the New York Times article posted about in 2011?
No, we are not. The New York Times article measured the level of poverty. So we are not the poorest city in the U.S. I think we're number 5 or 6 now. We're not number one, but we are still up there.
Yes. We're still on the list, but we've made
Oh yeah,
progress.
yeah. We've made progress, but we are definitely still on the
We're still
list.
there. Still more work to be done. So Reading is a melting pot, is what I hear a lot of different cultures, but very high Hispanic population here. Why would you say it's important to maybe amplify or share those voices, or is it important?
Yeah, I think that it is important to amplify the voices of um, of people in our city. So the majority of people in our city are Latinos. So it's almost 80%. And um, inside of that 80%, there are opposing views. So there are people who come here from their countries and say, do not ever speak Spanish again, because they say, or they think that once you come here, you cut the ties with whatever you come from, um, and you focus now on building a new future here. Do not look back to home. While there are others that come here and still continue the traditions that they had home, and they try to make it they try to make this place now a little bit to look like or to feel like a little bit like what it felt like at home. And there are other people, for example, that come and say, I am stopping here on my way home, or I am stopping here to get money so that I can send home. So this is not my home. All of those voices are there, and we should spend time listening to those voices and to those experiences, because if we don't understand them, we are only going to be, well, we are going to be disenfranchising some of them if we assume, oh, well, all Latinos like rice, or all Latinos dance salsa, or all Latinos, all Hispanics speak Spanish, which is not true. So I think it's essential to listen to voices even that are opposed to yours or have different backgrounds and different experiences from yours, so that we can learn to navigate this together in a more meaningful way. And because I know I have privilege, and I know I hold power. So for me, it's a very important responsibility to know that I have a warm office to go to work. I have food that I can eat for lunch. I do not have to wake up every morning at 3 in the morning to go to work. But that is not the experience of every Latino, middle-aged Latino in the city. So when I am leaving, I need to know those voices as well as mine, which is privileged, of course. But I need to know, I need to keep in touch with those voices, and because those are going to keep me humble, are going to inform me of my future decisions, while also understanding that the power that I hold is not to benefit myself um, only, but it's to benefit everyone. Because when I do something good for the community, I am benefiting myself in the long run, right? But it's not about me, and it's not about my experience. In that case, it's about listening to even those that do not agree with me. So that's why I think I broke down a little bit your question into who are we listening to, and why it is important to listen to even those that oppose us or have opposing views.
Yeah, fantastic. You touched on opposing viewpoints, and it made me think, just how do we bridge those gaps? Does it start with having those conversations, or the willingness to listen to opposing viewpoints?
Um, my answer to that. So your question was, how do we bridge those gaps? Um, it's really hard, because yeah, I can share tacos with somebody who works at the mushroom farm and has to wake up at 3 in the morning, has to be at work at 4. But I I don't know that I could survive as a mushroom picker. I I have never seen how they pick mushrooms, but I've been told that you have to have a lot of dexterity with your hands, and I don't know that I would have that. So the gap, the experience between that other person and mine is extremely difficult. So the bridging of the gap, it's almost like impossible for me to cross and for them to cross, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable going to museums. A lot of people don't feel comfortable going to the library, because they come from a different experience. So the bridging of the gap, I think, if we just for a second think, all right, this gap cannot be bridged. What can we do then? And I think that that's the work that Barrio tries to do. Is we should make spaces available for the majority of the people. We should make resources available for the majority of the people. We should democratize spaces. We should, so that's the type of work that we are doing. It sounds confusing and it sounds very theoretical, but in practice, it means spaces like the Reading Public Library or the Reading Public Museum. We bring people there and allow them to see themselves there, even though they may believe that they do not belong there, even though that they may believe that those spaces were not built for them, which historically, if you look, in more cases than not, that was the case, and that was the intent. But now, because we are changing to a new vision of the future for this country and the world and our society, um, I think that we are now looking at these things differently. So I don't know about bridging the gap. I can only tell you from my experience what we can do.
Yeah, I love that answer. Um, I feel like we get a lot of different theories of how we can bridge the gap, and this might have been one of the first answers where I've heard where maybe we can't, but we can provide space, which there's a lot of power in providing space that, like you said, a lot of us may not have had historically. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that was. So, but we only have a couple more questions for you.
No problem.
Um, but what advice would you give to others who may want to make a positive change in Reading or make the community stronger, I guess?
Based on my experience, as I mentioned, I am a practicing artist, and I did not follow other people's paths into where I am now. So my advice would be, know that there are different ways to get up the mountain. Just know that you should be very, very mindful about the people you are climbing that mountain with. Find your own way up the mountain, but be very careful of who you are uh, taking with you on that journey. Because they're going to become your best friends, but they should also question you. They should also tell you that that might not be the right way to go. They should also uh, have more experience than you in certain things. They should also slow you down sometimes, make you rests, take rests, and take care of you um, in the journey. That would be my advice.
Okay. My last question, it's subjective, but to you and your experience, what does it mean to be a part of the Reading community? What does that mean? What does that look like?
To be a member, to be a part of the city, is to be an organism inside of a larger organism that has a duty, and it has a responsibility to maintain that duty. Um, so my role in the city is a role to make sure that we are hearing the voices of people who many times are not heard. So that's what I am going to do, and I do it because I love the city. and I choose to be here. Um, so yeah, that I think that that's my answer.
Yeah, that was an amazing answer. Do you have, I don't know who this is going to reach. I'm trying to get it to as many people as possible once I finish editing it. But is there anything else you'd like to say, any comments, or um, you'd like to say for anyone who might see this?
I think that just remember that whatever journey you're going through or whatever journey you are going to go to, just keep in mind that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. The good days are not going to last, but the bad days are not going to last either. Just keep that in mind. So the bad will end, and so will the good, and that should keep you focused and centered in your journey.